Gamers, long time no see. And guess what? Papa's got a Switch 2 now. I feel large and in charge with my brand new Nintendo Switch 2 coming to a store near you when stock comes back. Anyhow, most people when they bought their Switch 2 this past week bought Mario Kart or Cyberpunk. And I thought that was kind of lame. You know, Mario Kart is just kind of not my thing, and Cyberpunk I've played it a million times, even though I will get it for Switch 2 at some point because I'm a shill. But there was one launch title that caught my eye more than the others, and it's funny because it's a game I've been told by a friend of mine from high school to play since the Switch 1 came out in 2017. The friend who said this, you know who you are. You're watching this probably right now, and you'd be like, "Oh, that's me! Look, it's me!" It's Yakuza 0 Director's Cut. That is the launch title I chose. I bought no other games for my Switch 2, just Yakuza 0. That is the only game I've bought so far, and wow. I'm going to tell you this right now, guys. It is probably the best showcase of the system I've seen so far. And not for the reason you would expect, but it's due to how it uses its resolution. Because I'm usually really good at pinpointing DLSS in games. And I don't see the DLSS on this game. I don't. There probably is some sort of temporal upscaling happening here, but it looks to my eye almost native, which if it is, that's incredibly impressive for a handheld to hit most likely 1440p or 4K on docked mode. That's fucking insane. And on the handheld, I think it is 1080p straight up. I don't think they're lowering the res. I think it's 1080p on the handheld. Now this is an older game. This was released in 2015 in Japan and 2017 in the US, so it's not a super current game, which gives it a little bit of headroom for the Switch 2. However, I think this is probably the most impressive game on the system because it gives us an idea of what a PS4 game can do on this newer hardware. And if we put this into comparison with something like the Steam Deck, the Switch 2 actually wins in both resolution and frame rate from what I can see. I actually have Yakuza 0 on the Steam Deck, and it runs pretty darn well, but this game has enhancements in the Switch 2, and it's running, I believe, a little bit better than the deck in a like-for-like scenario, which is extremely impressive. And it gets me excited about the future of this hardware now, because I'm thinking, if it can run a PS4 game at reasonable frame rates and actually surpass the visual quality of other handhelds competing in the market for the price, I mean, no, it's not going to beat an ROG Ally or a Lenovo Legion Go, but if it's beating the $400 LCD Steam Deck, okay, we might have something here. We might have something that the Switch 2 can actually compete with, because this is interesting, that there's an actual competitive advantage here. I also think the Switch 2 hardware overall is pretty exciting. I was not a believer until I actually got it myself. I was not going to get one at launch until I got the email from Nintendo's My Nintendo store the other day. I was going to get one at launch originally, and then I decided, oh, wait, right? And then I decided again, you know what? I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it at launch. I'm just going to do it. And thank God I did, because I'm having a great time with it now. I think the hardware is fantastic. I think overall, games are running great. The software support has been fantastic, as well as just overall, the Tears of the Kingdom patch, which I have played, because I already own Tears of the Kingdom on my Switch 1, is extremely impressive on the dock. Extremely impressive. I mean, the fact you're getting Tears of the Kingdom, a game that ran like absolute dog shit on the original Switch, running at 60 FPS and in a nearly native 4K looking form factor on the docked mode, is unflippin' believable. I mean, even on a Steam Deck, you can't get this game running above 40 FPS. You just can't. And that's emulation, obviously, so it's a little bit different, but it's extremely impressive. I will also add, the magnetic Joy-Cons, pretty damn good. I was worried that the stability wasn't going to be great, but it's extremely stable. It makes me actually want to use the system more in handheld mode now that it's more comfortable, because my problem with the original Switch was the Joy-Con rails were too fragile and they felt like loose. This, I do not have that issue, not even a little bit. They are so firm in the system now. I have no issues with confidence of the system sliding or having issues with reliability. I mean, there's still reliability issues with the handheld, but it's definitely better than Switch 1. Switch 1 was not I felt like the rail system on Switch 1 caused more issues than it added. I mean, we would have no Switch without the rail system for Switch 1, but it was not a long-term great system, so I'm glad the magnets are added, and they're extremely strong, so I have no issues with them coming unloose or not being super tight if I'm like pulling on it. If I'm pulling the system from the Joy-Con, it still stays on. That's extremely impressive that the Joy-Cons can hold the weight of the console and the other controller all at once. That's telling to me that they've built something that's stable. I will also add that the screen on the handheld, the LCD screen, people have actually been saying things like, "Oh, it's not that different from the OLED." They're dead wrong. I genuinely believe this is not that great of a screen. Yes, it's high resolution. Yes, it's HDR, but it's for an LCD screen. It's actually not that bright. It's a very dim LCD screen, which I was not expecting for a handheld that supports HDR. You kind of need brightness to take advantage of high dynamic range. I sell TVs as my primary job, so I'm pretty versed on what you need to make a TV work well with HDR. If you don't have a decent level of nits or a decent amount of brightness, you're not going to get a decent HDR experience. That's just the fucking bottom line. You buy a $500 LG 65-inch and you're not going to get a great HDR experience. You buy a $1,600 OLED from Samsung, yeah, you're probably going to get a decent HDR experience, only if Samsung would allow Dolby Vision on their displays, but we're not going to get into that. That's a completely other different tech talk that's unrelated to this. Chris Tronbot, stop sidetracking. You got to focus on the topic on hand. I'm sorry, guys. I get a little bit sidetracked on the details, but yeah, this is just my little first impressions of the Switch 2, and a little bit of Yakuza 0, a game I've been meaning to try out for quite some time. So thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You know, YouTube makes me say those things. You know, I would never say such things. I would just let you watch the video and enjoy it. But no, I'm being held at gunpoint by the algorithm. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and gamers, rise up.